How does a self-taught have its first contact with a professional environment? You mean like how do you get in contact with studios? I mean the transition from a student or a freelance initiated artist kind of to getting to a more fixed position in perhaps a company or even bouncing between companies. Okay, I see. Um, Unfortunately, the process is not super direct. There is not a clear path to start working as an artist in this industry. Um, Generally, it is pretty much following the same pattern of you have to reach a certain quality bar that is determined based off of kind of your own personal goals or the clients that you want to work for, if those are part of your goals. So if you want to work for Blizzard, for instance, um, then what I'd recommend is you find an IP that you personally really like, and you try to figure out what would you need to do if you were to work on any particular team for that IP. And you need to make sure that your portfolio is kind of catered towards that. The other option is that you could lean a little bit more generalized, and you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket and try to only work for Blizzard. So maybe you want to try and have some sort of the ability to be a little bit adaptable. So you do some work for some things for like a mobile game studio, or you do some work for another type of a studio or whatever. Um, and and then the other option, so there's specialized, generalized, and then the other option is you just fuck off and do your own thing. And what I mean by that is that um, instead of, if your goals are, I want to work for this client, I want to work for this company someday, then that's great. You have your standard. Your standard is set by that company, right? That company has its own standards that they've developed over years. They have their own IPs. They have their own artists. You can learn from those artists that have had to learn from past artists. There's a lot of information out there to help you get to that point. But if you end up wanting to do something for yourself, um, what you can do is, if your goal instead is that you just want to be an artist, or you want to make things that you want to make, um, and instead you're inspired by these companies, or these other games, or whatever else that you were inspired by, then you can create a portfolio that is basically just sort of your own personal beliefs, in a way, your own personal things of what you like to see, of what you think is interesting, what you think is cool. The problem with that is that it's not a guarantee that you are a hireable person. I think at a certain point, once you reach a certain quality bar, or you have a certain quality to your art that maybe some that like other people aren't offering, um, it's something that's unique to you. You'll become hireable. I think I could say that pretty confidently. The problem is that when you have a more personalized goal of where you want your art to be, you don't see a direct path or line to get you to that point. So let's say there's 3 paths you can take, right? So you could be specialized. One sec, let me write this a little brighter. Okay, so you could be specialized. You could be generalized. Or you could be personal. Okay, so specialized is saying like, all right, I want to work for Blizzard. That's who I want to work for. That's my goal. And if that's the case, and that's your goal, then that's all you got to do. You just got to be good enough to work for Blizzard. So look at Blizzard IPs. And study those. And then get a portfolio catered towards that. If you want to be generalized, though, because maybe there's multiple companies that you want to work for, right? Or maybe it's that you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, like I said. Then you could say, okay, I want to work for Blizzard, But also, Riot could be cool. Or also, Valve or something. I don't know. And if that's the case, then what you can do instead is it's a little less clear of a plan because you don't have an exact IP that you're after. So instead, you kind of have to look and figure out what are these things that these companies could have in common. What do you find interesting about them? And what does your portfolio need to represent that shows that you could work for these companies? So that would be more of like focus on commercially viable fundamentals. So what I mean by this is that if you look at fundamentals of art, right, you're talking about like drawing, talking about color, value, anatomy, etc. These like major fundamental things. These are things that these companies expect out of artists, right? They expect a certain level, a certain capability of you being able to paint well, use certain software, be able to have an eye to be able to see issues with your work or whatever. There's a certain general quality bar that they want to see that you can do. And if you're able to do those things, most of the time you're a little bit more adaptable. So if you end up working on something for Blizzard that has a little bit more 90s comic Western inspired sort of style, or you do stuff for Riot, which is more anime influenced, you're going to be able to sort of ebb and flow between those two things when needed because you focused on commercial viability in your portfolio. Then the third option is you go personal. Now, personal is just, what do you like? And so what I mean by that is like, let's say you are inspired by these other game companies, you're inspired by these other products, projects, whatever. You grew up and you fucking loved Beyblades. And so maybe you're like, I think it'd be cool to do Beyblade stuff, right? So if that's something you feel really passionate about, you don't know if you could work for Beyblades. Beyblades might not even be a thing anymore. They might not be hiring anybody anymore. But you decide that you're going to just do a portfolio of stuff you love, then what's going to happen is over time, depending on the needs of any sort of a company or client, depending on not just commercial viability, but commercial interest in your type of work, you could still get work this way. The problem and why a lot of people don't end up going this route, though, is because you can see, like, these are existing things. You don't need to look inwards to see anything, right? You look out and you see, well, I see Blizzard is really popular and they've got a lot of artists and their artists are, crowned as being really good artists. So I want to do that. And there's a clear path down because you can look at Blizzard IPs, you can study from Blizzard artists, and you can make a portfolio that looks like people that want to work for Blizzard. But if you do your own thing, that could look like anything. And it's much more personal. It's much harder to try and figure out what it is that you actually like, what it is that you're interested in. And then to go beyond that, you have to have the confidence that you're going to be able to develop a portfolio that you really enjoy, that you are satisfied with some of the quality of the images that you've made, and accept that some clients might not be interested in hiring you. And it could be that, like, maybe your portfolio doesn't speak to Valve on a project they're working on, doesn't speak to Riot on a project they're working on, but Blizzard is actually working on an IP, and they think that your style is really interesting, and so they actually want to bring you on. Now, the good thing about going this path here is that it's like, it's this level of, it's like more secure than people give it credit for. In that you might not have the promise of working for certain commercial projects, but you are offering a product in a way that's yourself, that's your own vision, it's your own images, your portfolio. You're offering a product that only you offer, and no one else is offering it because it's so distinctly you. And now it's a big risk, and again, you have to be very like aware of what your actual technical skills are and what you're actually providing to any sort of a company. And so I've seen people that like they have a great portfolio and it's a really, really interesting style. It's really cool, but their anatomy is not good. Like their anatomy is like really wonky. It's really broken. It works with the style, but if you were to look at their anatomy for too long, you'd go, that doesn't look great. Now it's okay if you're doing like visual development art, concept art, whatever. But the minute that maybe you have to take your anatomy and start making it a little bit more production ready and hand it off to someone doing 3D art or something, you then suddenly like maybe if that's part of your job description, you won't work out that well because you don't have the skills necessary to do something like that. So any of these three are a decent option. They all have their own sort of set of risks. You don't know if, 10 years from now, Riot could be gone for some reason. Riot's entire art focus could shift. There could be a new company that comes out that has this new art style that you really like, and suddenly you want to work for them. So all sorts of different things could shift. But these are sort of the three primary paths that I would recommend checking out.